going to show you how to set up a website on a VPS without using a control panel. And the reason for this is I'm cheap. I don't like paying for control panels. I also don't like the free ones because each one has a way for it and naturally to get paid somehow, and usually by restricting certain features. So I don't like that because I don't need that. So I basically want to set up everything manually. Now I have Ubuntu 24.04 on a RackNerd VPS. And if you want to know the steps, just go to evergreencode.com and then to this URL, evergreencode.com, and then how to set this up. Okay? So, and if you can't remember it, just type in something from this title. Okay, in the search, and it'll find it for you. So, okay, first of all, what do we need to know? We need to know the IP address. Now, with RackNerd, here, I'll go back here. With RackNerd, it gives me my IP address, so I already have it, and I already know it. And you also have to point, let's see here. You need to know the IP address, and you need to have your domain name point to your server IP via a DNSA record. So I don't really go into how to do this. Just a sec here. So what I do is I go to the DNS records for my domain name. In this case, the domain name is 123 Web Success. I go to, I make sure I'm using the name servers, or the servers where my domain name is registered. And then I go to the host records. And we're going to do two things. We're going to look at this one with the @ sign and the one with www. And all others. We're going to look at all three of those. Okay, so this will handle, so this handles the one, like if you put in your domain name, like in my case, 123websuccess.com. This one handles if you put www dot your domain name, like www.123websuccess.com. That's done by a lot of older people because in the early days of the internet, most websites had www in front of them with the dot. This asterisk is for subdomains. So for example, if you had a support part of your website to answer, say, customers' questions or something called help dot your domain name. That's a separate website, but it's got the subdomain is help. So what we need for these is we need to make these all address or A records. So let's make them A records. Now they're all A records, and let's put in the IP address. This is the IP address of the VPS that I have. And then, of course, you click Save. At least a day. In a few hours, you might be able to see that you can get your domain name there. Typically takes a day, sometimes 3 days, but usually a day. If you are able to see it within a few hours, just remember nobody else in the world can. You're just lucked out. In about a day, everybody in the world can see it. It takes a while to propagate. Okay, so now that we've got the IP address, we've got our domain pointed, and hopefully we wait it a day or a few hours. And then we have to install Apache. Apache is the web server we're going to use. And so I'm just going to copy this code. And I'm going to bring up I'm logged into my RackNerd VPS. And I do this. It asks me if I want to continue, and yes, I do. It's installing Apache. And there we are. Okay, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what happens here. I'm just going to speak generally. I might even have a little inaccuracies, but it's the general gist of what happens. So what happens is, I'll put this to here. You enter in your URL, your domain name, in this case 123websuccess.com. So it looks up in these name servers. So it'll start here, and if it can't find it here, it'll look here, 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 and here. So it's looking for your domain name, in my case 123websuccess.com. So it's going to start looking here, and it's going to find the record. So when it finds the record, it then then there's it could be www dot in my case your domain name, or in my case www.123websuccess.com. It could just be your domain name, like 123websuccess.com, or it could be something else like help.yourdomain that's a subdomain, like help.123websuccess.com. And then when it finds that in the name server, it finds the IP address corresponding to it. So then it will go to this IP address. This IP address is the computer system that contains my VPS. So computers are no good at names like 123websuccess.com. Computers are not good with words in that sense, but they're great with numbers. So that's why the domain name is converted to an IP address. And with the IP address, computers are really good at finding the actual computer on the system. This is a very general layman's type explanation for this. So then it'll go over to my VPS at this IP address, and the web server, in this case Apache, will then look up the domain name, your domain name, again 123websuccess.com in my case, and it will look up where the file folder is for it and send the computer there to pull up the website from that folder. Again, that's a very brief overview of how this works. So after installing Apache, we have to start it. And so we're going to copy this. Let's test it. So I'm going to go to HTTP. So I go to HTTP:/ and the IP address for my VPS. And here's what we should see. We should see the Apache 2 default page and the announcement that it works. Okay, good. Now Apache's installed and working. So now we have to create a folder for this website. The reason is that because I'm not using a control panel, I have to make the folders myself. Now, Ubuntu 24.04, and when we install Apache, we go to /var/www, and in there we'll put folders that will contain our website. Now, these instructions, you'll notice they talk about example.com. I'll use one here. You put your domain name, so mine's going to be 123websuccess.com, and yours might be like blah blah blah.ca or .us, and that's fine. So to do this, I'm going to bring up my editor, and I do a global search and replace, and I put, for example.com and websuccess.com. All right. So now let's take a look. Now I have to make the directories. So I copy it. I'm going to put it into this. Obviously, my domain name's not going to be example.com, so I paste it into my text editor, and I substitute copy, and I paste into the SSH. And there we are. So what we did here is we made the directories, and then we changed the ownership to be us. We're the user here of this folder, so that we can work with the folder and the files in it. So now we're going to need a home page for the website to go to. So we're going to create one for testing purposes. It's an index.html file that simply says hello from and your domain name. So what we do is we copy this code. What it's going to do is go to the appropriate directory. It's going to create the file and put the HTML code, or, well, not even HTML code. It's going to put in the message hello from your domain name. And click copy, go to our editor. Of course, we have to change the domain name. We copy again, and we go here. I'll clear this out so you can see it properly. There we go. And we hit enter. Okay, so now we need, here we go. This is what we need right now. We need to create a virtual host configuration file. So basically the idea of this is we need to tell Apache where the website is. So it knows it's a valid website. And now we need to map the domain name to the folder where the website actually is. So let's create the file that we need. Okay. All right, we'll change the domain name. Copy, paste. And there we are. We have a blank file. It's in the correct directory here. It's in our sites available directory. And it has our domain name. Okay, then we're going to put this in that file. Here's what it is. It starts a virtual host to port 80. Port 80 is the port for HTTP web addresses. You have to change this part to your email address, a working one, of course. Then, of course, we have to change the domain. And there we are. So let me copy this. We'll go into our editor. Got to change the email address. My email address. And we have to change the domain name. Copy. And of course, we'll paste into this file. All right. And now we'll save it. So Control X, we press Y, hit enter to save to the same file name. Now after creating that, okay. So now we need to enable our site and to reload Apache. So we're going to enable it. This is the command for enabling it to our domain name. It enables the configuration file for our domain name. And then we reload Apache so Apache sees the change. Click copy. If you hear any noise in the kitchen, it's just people doing, if you hear any noise, people doing stuff in the kitchen. There we go. Oh, wait, first I have to do the, there we go. Change the domain name. There we go. So we see here that the configuration file is enabled. and it tells us to run this command, but we already have. And there we are. It's working. It says hello from 123websuccess.com. There you go. Now you'll notice that this site is not secure. It started with HTTP. We wanted to start with HTTPS, which is a secure site, and for that we need a certificate. People trust secure sites more now. They're suspicious now of HTTP sites, so it's good to add the SSL. So let's go back here. Now, if this did not work, you could try testing it. So I'm just going to test this just to show you this, okay? So here. And I will clear it. When we do that, you get syntax okay. And if you don't get that, it tells you the file, the line in the file to look at, and it gives you an idea of what's wrong. It's very straightforward to figure out. All right, so here we go. So now let's enable HTTPS, and we're going to use Let's Encrypt to do that because it's free. And we've already updated and upgraded and stuff, but I do that anyway just because. And then we're going to install this. Click OK, or click copy. It's loading a bunch of files to do the install, and there we go. So not needed upgraded, and everything's at the newest version. So we want to make sure that port 80 and port 443. Port 80 is for the HTTP, and 443 are the SSL version, the HTTPS. I don't need to do this, so I'm not going to bother. Okay, so now what we want to do is install the SSL certificate. So let's do that. I'm going to go down to here, and we're going to just copy this. Bring up our handy dandy editor. So this will request, I'll show you. This will request a certificate for this domain name. So let's, here. So it's requesting it. Successfully received certificate. Excellent. So now we've got our certificate. Okay, let's test automatic renewal. It recommends it, so I'll try it. Click that. Let's go here. Simulating renewal for this. And it worked. Yay, it worked. Okay. So we have to edit a configuration file. So let me show you something. This is in the sites available. Let's go back there. We're not in sites available. Let's go back there. I just want to show you this here, that it exists. Okay. So what happens is, wow, I gotta learn how to type. see here, we didn't have this one before. Our domain name .ls.ssl. That was created by the installing the certificate in that config file. So I'm going to copy it. Go into our editor. Now the file name is correct. And we go here. And we need to edit this file. So a few things that I need to change. It didn't know my email address, so just put webmaster@123websuccess.com. And it didn't have the right document root in either location. So I could change these if I wished and just, you know, put in the correct so what I'm going to do here is put this. Okay, and same with this. And for this, I just put in my normal email address. All right, and now I'm going to save it. And there we are. Okay. Or if you want, you can copy this and modify it. So what we need to do now is enable the configuration file or enable the website and reload Apache. Okay, so says that it's enabled it, but to use it we have to run this. And that's the command right here. And now Apache's restarted. And now we can check the site. And so you'll notice it starts with HTTPS. That means it's using SSL or will attempt to use SSL. And here we go. So it's working. It says hello from 123websuccess.com. So now SSL is working. We have a secure website. And of course we can modify index.html as we wish. I'd like to show you something. Here in our virtual host file, we have a server alias of www. And then our domain name. A server alias means that when it sees this, it will go to this domain. So if you go www.yourdomain, it'll go straight to your domain. And that's for port 80. You'll also find that for port 443, which is the one for SSL, the same thing. We have a server alias of the domain name with www. there. So when you go www.domain, it'll go to the actual domain. Also remember here with our DNS records that the www goes to the same IP address or the same computer. That computer has Apache, and Apache knows that www, in this case, 123websuccess.com. It'll just redirect to 123websuccess.com, and of course it knows where the files are for that. So let's test that. So let's take a look at that. Let's go to https://www.123websuccess.com. We go there, and it takes us to the same website, the one that is 123websuccess.com. And all right, so let's go here. Now we're going to http ://www.123websuccess.com, and it takes us to this website 123websuccess.com. So that's working. Now here you'll notice the dot, which means the subdomains. So I'm going to make a subdomain called help. So if you're setting up a certificate, an SSL certificate for just one domain, you can use this. But if you want to do several, for example, a certificate for www.domain or help.domain, you have to add more -ds and what you're after. So for example, here we are. So this one, we'll set it up for example.com. Okay, pardon me. This one will set up for the domain, www.thedomain, and help.thedomain. Okay, so let's click that. And there we are. And if we do this, let's do this. I'll hit the expand thing. Successfully did the certificate thingy. Okay, let's see if it works. Yep. Let's go to help now. See here? Now it's going to the right spot. All right. Now I'll bet you it'll throw me to the other one. Okay, so now we see here it's doing it correctly. Yeah. So it does go to there, and that is working correctly. So we've done quite a bit. For example, we have installed Apache. Where are we here? We have installed Apache, verified it worked. We've set up this file structure, and this file structure works for both HTTP and also for the SSL, which is HTTPS. So we created the folders, added a index.html file. We've told Apache, we've configured Apache correctly to work with this. We've tested it, and of course we made it work with SSL. We also made it work with, and I'll show you up here, We've also made it work for even if you just got one domain, or if you have multiple variations of the domain. For example, the example we use, we have your normal domain, you have www.domain, and of course, say help.domain for if you want a subdomain. And you'll notice this one is set up to be a completely different website than the others. So for example, this here, the www simply goes here. Let me show you in the file structure what I'm talking about. So in the file structure, 123websuccess.com will come here to /var/www, and it'll go into the directory 123websuccess.com. It'll go into the directory public_HTML, and then it'll find the index.html file and display it. Similarly, if we do www.123websuccess.com, it will go here. Because it's an alias, it will go here. An alias is similar with people. Like my name is Richard, and I could use the alias Dick. So if somebody made a reference to Richard, or made a reference to, say if they said, hey, how's Dick doing today? So if they call me Dick, people would know that, oh, yeah, you're talking about Richard. Okay. So similarly, www.123websuccess.com, we made it an alias that is for 123websuccess.com. So all that does is, just as the name Dick refers directly to me personally, www.123websuccess.com refers to this domain directly. And that's because we told Apache that's what we wanted it to do. And again, it would go into /var/www. It'll go into the directory 123websuccess.com, the directory public_HTML, and it would find the index.html, just like we did before. Now, the thing about support websites or help websites is often they're completely different than the normal one. So that's why we made a special one called help.123websuccess.com. If we do that one, it knows to go to /var/www/help.123websuccess.com. Then it goes into the folder public_HTML, and it finds the index file. And you'll find that this index file prints slightly differently than this one. Okay? So that's what we have accomplished here. We have a completely separate website here. We got this one here for our normal website stuff. And if we want support or help for our customers, say, or viewers, they can go to this website, which we can set up completely differently. So we did a lot. And if you want more files done with different domain names, you can set them up by just repeating what we just did. And that is how to set up and configure Apache manually. This is how to set up a website and Apache manually, so that you don't need a special control panel to do it. In fact, if you know programming, you could write script files and make your own HTML files that we'll call the script files.